Perfect timing, John. Had to give you the 20-minute honk. We're going to move straight on because we'll come back to John in the Q&A. And I'd like to introduce Kevin Goffinet and welcome Kevin to the stage. Kevin is from Perceptive Software, which is linked to Lexmark, which Kevin will explain. But please welcome Kevin to join us.
Take that. Great. Thanks. Thanks, Phillips. Good afternoon. Thanks for your time today. I am from Lexmark, and I'm also from Perceptive Software. And I think what you'll find out over the next few minutes is we are a microcosm of exactly how the workplace is changing based on the type of products and offerings that we offer to our customers. You may know Lexmark as a printer and MFP, multifunction printer company, copy, fax, scan. That has been our tradition for over 20 years. Over the past 2.5 years, though, we have moved into the process and content management space. And I thought it was interesting earlier in the last panel, Julie mentioned two things that remote workers were looking for. If you remember the big circles, one of the biggest circles was printers. I was glad to see that. One of the other big circles was fax, copy, scan capability. I was glad to see that. And the reason is Lexmark's business has been paper-based. Now let me read you a quote, and this is a paraphrase, and this is audience participation. This is a quote from Business Week magazine in the US, and the audience participation piece is for you to guess what year this quote came from. Upcoming advances in technology will soon usher in the era of the paperless office. What year?
1985. 77. 1952.
Not 52. Earlier than 77. 75. I'll just cut right to the point. 37 years ago. And in fact, I paraphrase because you would be able to date it. The real quote said upcoming advances in word processing equipment. So no one would guess that. But I've been using that quote for 12 years. Back starting in the 2000, I was able to say 25 years ago, Business Week is talking about the paperless office. And the reason I bring that up and the talk that I want to give today is that hits how especially our knowledge workers do business. 50 years ago, the only way to move information, to long-term store information, to present information was paper. Now we've done a lot of computerization, a lot of networking, a lot of mobile devices, a lot of ERP systems, and we're still dragging this huge amount of paper and what we call unstructured content with us. And I'll describe what I mean. A couple statistics to start off with. Information, in fact, I stole this first one just a couple weeks ago from a customer I was meeting that said information and processes, so business content and business processes was this company's only asset. That's why their business was in business. That's what they did. It was all about their processes and their information and their content. Second thing, I steal a lot of data from other people's presentations. IDC, I love this one. ROI equals ROI. Return on investment now is associated with return on information. So again, back to business content, what workers are using to get their job done. And in fact, IDC mentioned that the cost of processing information for a knowledge worker is equal to the burden cost of that knowledge worker. So 1.7 times their salary is what it costs for them to manage information, and of that, 17% of that is completely lost unproductive time. So IDC's information, your knowledge workers, our knowledge workers, our customers' knowledge workers, they are wasting 17% of their time trying to find information, trying to find content, and basically working manual business processes. And those two things are connected. Paper or unstructured data leads to manual processes leads to unstructured, unmanaged data. So I'm not going to go through a whole lot of this on the, except this first one's a great mix of euphemisms where I think this is Gartner saying, flood of information coming in causing an explosion of information sources. Texting, Twitter, social media, emails, all coming in, and businesses are more wanting to combine that unstructured data with structured data. So what do I mean between those two? Structured data is something that fits very nicely into a spreadsheet. A row and a column, and you put a date or a quantity or a text, and it fits nicely in that spreadsheet, or fits nicely in your database, it fits nicely into an ERP system. That's what structured data is about. Unstructured data is everything that you're carrying with you. Your paper documents, your Word files, your Excel files, your tweets, your text messages, things that are not being managed within your core systems today. Last item is, again, they're talking about bringing all this together, and the systems that are in place for the people to do their job today can't handle structured and unstructured data. It can't manage automating and manual business processes. So after working with customers for 20 years, starting with paper with Lexmark, and in the past few years with Perceptive software, working with them on content and process, there's 3 universal challenges that I see companies have. One, everyone's looking for better financial performance. Grow the revenue, control costs, lower operating expense. Number 2, risk management. Mitigate risk to the business. Make sure that the processes that I have are compliant with government or corporate regulations. 3, build a system that's flexible for the future. So I smash all that together, structured and unstructured data, universal challenges, manual business processes, paper interleaved through there. What about the ERP systems? The systems of record. Everyone has them. Every company has the core systems that they use to manage their business. We spent a lot of people, consultants, coming in to implement these systems, spent a lot of time, in most cases months or years, spent a lot of money, tens or hundreds of millions of pounds or dollars to implement these systems that were supposed to manage data and automate processes. What we find is those core systems are in place. They do a good job of providing visibility. They help manage some set of processes, but generally, in every customer I visited, behind the scenes, there are people that are managing the manual processes. And one statistic I've heard is 80% of the processes used to run a business are manual business processes. So that's what workers are doing every day, is managing processes outside the system. Same thing with the content, the data. In this case, I've heard 90% of the data we use to run our businesses are unstructured. They don't fit into the ERP system. So there's this whole shadow of data that's on your iPads, on your mobile devices, on your laptops, on shared drives that are used to manage your business, but you have no control over. So the reason I'm saying all this is what businesses are looking for is to get more expense back, to reduce their costs. They're looking to mitigate their risk, both on the process and the content side. But the areas to do that are outside of where the ERP systems are today. So what we would like to do, what businesses would like to do, is open that aperture, see more of it. Last statistic I'll throw at you, so 70% of processes are manual, 80% of the content is unstructured. 79% of the IT directors that were polled said their ERP systems are too inflexible to grow to take on these processes and this content. So what we're looking for, what I see companies doing, is how do they extend their core systems and to enable their workers to automate processes and to have access to more content. And ultimately, that's what I see happening, both from moving from paper truly into tablets now, into a paperless office, automating those processes, and then obviously delivering on what I brought up before, the 3 areas of financial performance, delivering that financial performance, mitigating the risk, and providing flexible systems for the future. So 3 things I talked to you about. Start with the core system, build on that, get workers to focus on automating processes, get them access to content that's in a structured way, and it's really ERP systems, process management, and content management. So how does this link back in? I guess what I see is really gets back to, we could not have gone to a remote workforce 50 years ago. Obviously the technology wasn't there, but it wasn't there because information was stored on paper. Workers had to be close to the content that they needed, which was paper-based. We've moved the systems, we've moved into mobile devices, into networks, but we're still tied to this legacy of manual processes and unstructured, unmanaged data. What I see the next wave going forward is really going to be to cut the bonds between those manual processes and that unmanaged data, and to be able to start building these hybrid systems that will allow us to have this workforce that can literally operate anywhere in the world. So hopefully fit within the time there. I didn't get the horn, so I think that's a good thing. So thanks again for your time.